Hello, my dear students. How are you today? If you see me, I am okay, and I hope you are sitting at home and you follow all the instructions of quarantine. And if you feel sick, you should call the ambulance. You should dial 103 or 112 if you have problems with your health. But if you are okay, you should keep studying. And today I recommend for all students of legal department to study employment law. What is employment? Employment is an occupation by which an individual earns a living or an income. Employment law regulates working relations between an employer and an employee. In this picture you can see two sides or two parties of employment agreement or employment contract. It is an employer or boss and it is an employee or worker. People usually make contracts between each two sides or parties. Employment law or employment contract, looks like this one. Employment contract is a piece of paper, and at the top of this paper you can see personal information about employer and employee. For example, you can see the name of both sides, their surname, an address, passport number, and other personal information. And then you can see the information about conditions of contract. For example, working hours, start dating work, and other working conditions. For example, if you are obliged to be ready for business trips or not. And at the end of this employment contract you can see signature of both sides, and you can also find a stamp at the bottom of this piece of paper. Why do people need employment law? People need employment law to avoid discrimination. In fact, people can be discriminated against race, sex, or religion, and we need employment law to provide fair wages, to get good money for your job. Well, I'll go back to the picture to this picture. You know that employer or a boss wants to earn, wants to get the highest production for the least money, and on the contrary, an employee wants to get more money for the least job. Well, and we need also employment law to provide benefits. For example, unemployment benefits. We should save our employees if they have problems with getting money after termination, for example. And we, of course, should ensure safety of employees. We should understand if employers have good working conditions at work or not. There are four types of employment: full-time employment, part-time employment, fixed-term, and temporary. Our Russian legislation, according to our Russian legislation, people should work 40 hours a week. It means that people should work 8 hours each day. And part-time job is recommended for women, for example, who take care of children, and it is about 4 hours a day. Fixed-term employment is for workers who work for a certain period of time. And temporary employment is used if a worker is engaged for a work over 2 or 3 months or 2 or 3 years. During my lecture, I recommend you to remember such word collocations or such words. For example, to hire workers, to fire workers. What is the difference between to hire workers and to fire workers? They are antonyms because they are different terms. We hire workers at the beginning of their job and we fire workers at the end of the job. For example, and the process of firing workers is called termination or dismissal. Please remember this word also. I want to speak about rights and obligations of both sides, of employers and employees. There is a table to understand this topic better. Well, for example, what about employees' rights? The most important rights of employees are to have time for lunch. It is about 1 hour a day, and of course all employees should have a right to have holidays. Some people have holidays in summer, but some people have also rest of people have holidays in other seasons, for example in winter, in autumn. But the main important right of employees is, of course, to get salary in time. You, of course, should have get access to all necessary instruments, documents, all things you need to work to complete your job. And while working, you should get benefits for working overtime, for doing extra job. Employees have also got a right to improve qualification and apply for better position at work. And all employees should have days off. What about employers' rights? Among employers' rights, I can mention the most important rights such as, for example, to hire and fire workers, to impose disciplinary penalties on workers, to fine workers, for example, to require work done in time personally with quality, to state a minimum level of educational achievement as a criteria for hiring. And employers shouldn't prove that candidate doesn't suit for this or that job or position. Of course, employers can monitor and control the work of an employee, and he or she can control also business conversations. But sometimes employers also can search employees' desks. Employers can ask employee to show his or her working place. And employers can opt to pay extra money for some colleagues for non-discriminational reasons. Among rights and obligations, among the duties of employees and employers, sorry, there is a mistake. Employers' duties. And among employees' duties, I can mention such as, for example, to complete work in time with quality personally, to follow all the instructions given at work, to follow dress code of the company. Well, you should, in some companies, employers make male people to be clean-shaven, and there are different dress codes in companies. Of course, you should compensate all you should compensate all damages caused by improper usage of furniture, equipment. If you, for example, broken a computer, you should compensate, you should pay money for this thing. People or employees shouldn't harm employers' reputation or business. And they must keep confidential information about the company or about business plan in secret even after an employee is terminated or moves on to another job. Well, what about employees' duties? Among employees' duties, I can mention following: to provide safe working conditions, to pay salary in time, to inform employees about inner rules of the company, to provide employees with all necessary documents, materials, equipment, and not to discriminate workers on the basis of race, religion, sex. Well, I think, of course, there are a lot more other duties and or responsibilities and rights of employers and employees. And if you know such duties and responsibilities, rights, you can inform it by my mail serial 98 @remlab.ru. Thank you for watching me. Bye.